Welcome to the Practical NLP podcast with me, Andy Smith. Catch up on previous episodes at nlppod.com. Now let's experiment with test driving your timeline. You do this test drive right after you've elicited the timeline if you're working with a client. It's just a confidence-building exercise that involves floating above the timeline in order to get some detachment and some perspective. It also works brilliantly as a stress management or relaxation exercise. Because it involves moving your point of view relative to the timeline, it's worth knowing that some people have a metaphorical conception of time where they stand still and events move towards them along the timeline, like when people say, "We've got the holidays coming up," or if you're a Game of Thrones fan, "Winter is coming." For other people, the timeline stays still, and they move along it, as if it was a path or a road. For these people, events are like fixed points or landmarks along the timeline. They would say, "We're coming up to the holidays." I wonder if you'll notice how we cater for both conceptions of the timeline, fixed or moving relative to your point of view, in the suggestions for the test drive that we're about to do. So let's try this now. If you're driving, stop the audio and wait until you're somewhere safe to try this. Close your eyes and float up above the timeline to a height at which you're completely comfortable. Or you may want to stay where you are and let the timeline sink away below you. In either case, just get some vertical distance between yourself and the timeline. It's important that you're associated into floating above the timeline, looking down through your own eyes rather than watching yourself. Now float up even higher, way up high. And notice what happens as you do. Now turn towards the past, staying at the same comfortable height, and float a short distance towards that direction. And now turn around so you're facing towards the future, and float a similar short distance towards the direction of the future. And come back to directly above now, and practice floating up a little and down a little, and notice what happens as you do. Notice the difference between this experience and your normal everyday experience as you went about your life down at timeline level. And now bring back everything that you liked about that sensation as you come back down to now, back into the room, and when your unconscious mind is ready to move on to the next stage, you can open your eyes. And welcome back, which of course presupposes that you've been somewhere. What was that like? In particular, how did it compare with normal everyday experience? Most people will say they felt calm or detached, or it's quiet up there, or they get a sense of perspective. This is what we're looking for. If someone finds it not totally easy straight away to float back towards the direction of the past or forwards to the direction of the future, usually getting them to float higher will allow them to get beyond whatever obstacle their mind has placed in their way. So what can we do with this sense of calm, detachment, getting things in perspective, quiet, peace or lightness that people find they have floating above the timeline? The application that you may find the most obvious and easy is a stress management technique. When you're enjoying life, you want to be down there on the timeline in the moment, experiencing it. But when there are conflicting demands, or there's a tough decision to be made, or when someone is experiencing strong negative emotions, or when there's just too much stuff swirling around to make sense of, why not take a moment to float up above it all and get some detachment, some peace, some perspective? If you float up far enough, right out into outer space, beyond the orbit of the moon if you want to, you'll find that the higher up you go, the more detached and peaceful you'll feel. Ever since the first moon landing in 1969, we've known how peaceful and beautiful the Earth looks from space. When you're high enough above ground, there could be a war going on down there and it wouldn't affect your peaceful state in the moment. So floating up to the height at which you feel particularly comfortable is a good way to free yourself from excessive emotion, whether it's around a tough decision with multiple factors where you'll find the less important things fading away, allowing the more important ones to stand out, or whether it's a conflict situation where right there in the moment you can float up above yourself and the other person. above all the heat of the moment, and look down from a detached perspective at yourself and the other person reacting to each other. And as you see that, you might even laugh inside, so that when you float down again, bringing everything that you've learned down with you, you can respond more resourcefully in that situation and bring about a better outcome for you and the other person. Another application, which I'll mention without going into depth, since this is a business-focused program, is that the detachment that floating above the timeline brings allows much easier clearing of emotional baggage, like anger, sadness, fear, and guilt from the past. It appears that your unconscious mind can learn what you need to learn to let go of this baggage much more easily from this position. I use this method a lot with my clients when I was a hypnotherapist and taught it on change work-focused NLP courses for several years. But a business-focused program isn't the place to teach this technique. I just want you to be aware of it and know that it's possible so you can find out more if you're interested. Another application that can be useful in some circumstances is switching the orientation of the timeline. For example, to help someone to be able to switch from in time to through time so that they can improve their time management. Even this is something to use with caution. You wouldn't want to crank the past timeline with all the events that someone has put behind them forwards into their view again unless you'd cleared any emotional baggage first. That's it for this week's podcast. Remember, you can see the show notes for this episode at nlppod.com, and you can download back episodes you may have missed from the online store at webstore.nlppod.com. Even better, would you like a free practical NLP audio training pack showing you how to use the principles of NLP to improve your life and work, even if you're not NLP trained yet? It helps you to really understand the most important 12 principles of NLP and make each principle work for you with practical exercises. You'll get access to nearly 2 hours of top quality learning material that you can play on any smart device. It's in MP3 format for instant download to phone, tablet, or computer. To get your hands on this audio course, visit the Practical NLP Podcast website at nlppod.com. See you next time.